One idea that I borrowed from the 19th century from Turner is to just do some quick 1 minute, 2 minute watercolors very fast. And if these things are to be idea generators, you can't get possessive about them. You have to see where the paint goes. So let's go over here. Let's put some paint up. Shaving blue deep. A little ultramarine. Transparent red oxide. White. Now you can use photographs, you can use the landscape, you can use lots of things. I use all of those things. Just don't copy your source. See what happens in the paint. I'll put this up here. We're going to go do some watercolors real fast. We don't care what's going to happen. We're just seeing what the paint will do. Okay, you've got your 1 or 2 minute watercolor. Stop. Go to the next one. Now I think I'll introduce another color or two. A little gamboge yellow and carmine. And when I thin out the yellow, it becomes more yellow. Look, more yellow, because light moves through the paint and bounces off the white ground, giving you more color. This is a varnished watercolor paper, still 300-pound watercolor paper. I took some acrylic gloss medium varnish and I rubbed it on. You don't want to be stingy with the gloss varnish or you won't be able to protect the surface to get a water impermeable surface, which I have right now. Now I'm going back to the dark brush, but it's clean now. I washed it off. Now this time, I'm going to paint in layers, but in maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes, again, very fast, but I'm going to paint in the layers. Now I'm going to do that by rubbing in some brighter colors and then putting darker colors on top. Real quick though. Don't dawdle or you'll lose the sense of spontaneity, the fun of the paint, which is communicated to the viewer. Okay, here we go. I mix a little bit of this gamboge with the carmine, makes a nice rosy color, and I just start smearing it in. And it's real fiery. Wow, is that fiery? Oh boy, fiery. Huh? See, it's explosive. Then, while it's still wet with my still dark brush, which I rinsed, I'm going to take some of this ultramarine blue and some of this carmine and mix them over here. See, it's kind of a purpley color. And run that down in here. Purple. And I'm going to move that around like that. And I'm going to just see, okay, and I'm going to take and carve in some backgrounds like that. I'll take a little bit of the purple. I started to make that purple, right? I went there, and I went here, and I went here, and I went a little bit more like that, and I went a little bit more like that. A little more grayed purple. And boom. Fun. And over there. Okay, good. And we'll go in with just water. Now I'll come in just with the rag. Down along the shore. I told you we were going to layer this a bit, so we'll layer. Now I'm going to need a little bit more white. There, see that nice light? There it is. Because it's a complement to all that orange, and we're going to have some fun with that there. And then I go to a smaller brush and I'm going to cut in. And here's the cutting in. Come into the ultramarine blue, again with a little bit of the white, a little bit of the carmine, more ultramarine blue. Not enough. I get to see what the colors are before I put them here. Now I'm going to find an interesting shape. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I think just as soon as I said that, I'm going to cut out some more of this territory here. Went over here and I went like that in here. And now I got this on here. And I'm putting up a bunch of buildings. By the way, this scene that I'm playing with has historical significance for me personally because of my interest in Byron and Keats. Keats drowns along the Italian coast right over here. This is called the Gulf of Byron. There's a grotto of Byron in here. Porto Venere is right around here, and the Cinque Terre is right up this coast here. So this is where Byron and Keats and everyone played. Now I said I would cut in, and I'm going to cut in, and I'm going to cut in from the back. Remember those colors I was mixing? Now I did some shapes. It's an old fort back in there. I will come down, and then there's the Chapel of Peter out here on the edge of the water. See how I didn't paint them, I painted the space around them, and they popped up. And anything dark that I want to do in here. Remember how I got that green? I went back in here with the shaving, and I have a quasi-dry brush. Yeah, a little bit more of that yellow in it. To get something, to put down something a little bit dry and a texture down in here, so I can get a texture. It'll feel like those foresty things coming up and down over the hills. And I'm just putting a little more dark down here along the base because it's a little dark right in there, and in that water, just playing a little bit, maybe a little bit more dark up in here, and a little more mystery up there in those clouds. Okay, and guess what? We're done. Because that's as much as you want to do. These are studies. But to see how they're looking, because you frame a picture, you need context. So far, because the paint is moving off the edge, out of the picture onto the edge, you see all this mess. You create a window in your mind. Your brain creates the window when I clean up the edges. The scene becomes more real when it creates the window. Because now the picture is separating itself from the rest of its environment. And it's a window now onto deep space.